start, but if you actually listen to your language, you've already admitted that it's not enough.
Exactly.
You do want somebody and you do want something to fulfill that loneliness for you. So where I would go next is I would look at what you're committed to, like what type of lifestyle do you want to live? Because as you're trying to find somebody, you need to find somebody who's compatible
but that's
with
why I want you to hold on, because I'm not like looking to find somebody, right? Because, well, for me that wouldn't work because I'm not technically single. I mean, I'm not single in my world,
You're in limbo.
Right, I would call it in limbo, exactly. Okay. So I'm lonely, so what can I do now, given that my values are, you know, that until I'm single, I'm not going to be looking for somebody.
Until you're completely single, you're not going to be looking for somebody.
Right, like legally single.
Well, what would you do? I mean, all that there is to do then is to fill space and time with what you're going to do, right?
Well, I don't want my partner to be like my answer to happiness either. Like I want to be happy in myself, and then I'll, you know, hopefully have
you have a lot more attitude this show than you did last show. I like it.
Okay,
hey,
well, it's like let's do it real life, right?
So, but what is your question? What are you going to do in the meantime?
Well, no,
can
like,
I speak to that?
Look, so did you hear what I just said?
I
feel like
did.
you didn't hear what I said.
What did you say?
Okay, I said I'm lonely, but I don't want like my happiness to be dependent on. Well, for now I'll do this and I'll be satisfied until I find someone and then I can be happy. I don't want it to be about the other person that I'm happy.
You don't want to do a band-aid, basically.
I don't want my fulfillment to be answered in
well, right now you don't want to fill
else.
up the time until you find someone. That's what I'm saying. That's a band-aid. Fill up your time
that's
until
true.
you find someone.
No, what did you hear?
What did I hear?
Yeah.
Well, when you initially started, you said that I am my own source of happiness. So
Theoretically.
Right,
and I'm not being effective at it.
Okay, if you're not being effective at it, I would look at what it is that you're actually doing, because there's actions that are consistent with what you're doing.
What?
Like there's action, like what is it that you're doing? Like what, or where is it that you're not your own source of happiness?
Okay.
And a place to look with that.
Okay.
I actually got this coaching when I was in a very similar situation as you. And somebody was like, you know, are you lonely? And I'm like, well, yeah. And they said, well, are you ever with people and you're still lonely? Well, yeah, actually. Don't you think that's weird? I'm like, well, yeah, actually. So they said, you know, you won't be lonely when you are fully self-expressed, when you're fully you, when you are living, acting, breathing, you know, on what you're committed to, what your gifts in life are, what brings you joy. Like, you know, what are your passions? And I said, okay, that's great, but like, you know, what does that mean? How do I do that, you know? And he just started asking me questions. Well, what do you love? Like, are you a musician? Are you a writer? Are you a composer? And they're things that I never allowed myself to be, but that I know are inside me and do bring me joy. Well, why aren't you composing music? Well, I don't know, you know, it was so confronting, but he said, you're robbing the world of the brilliance and the contribution that you are. And I promise you, you will not be lonely when you are fully self-expressed. And I really took that on, and it's so true. I felt more love.
What does that mean you took it on?
Oh, thank you. I really focused on that. Like, day in, day out, that's what I wanted, because I wanted to be whole for myself. You know, and then I wanted to create a partnership. Of course, marriage and kids has always been something I want in my life, but I don't need it to fill a void. I wanted to create it from a place of me being powerful and being like, bam, this is who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and what I discovered is when I just kind of let loose and went to like, what would it look like to be totally self-expressed, and just explored that. And I got my sassy clothes out, and I, you know, like all these things that I did.
Yes, okay.
And I walked with my bounce. I was present to more love than I ever have been in my whole life. And I wasn't lonely being the only person, you know, in an airport, surrounded by people I didn't know. I wasn't lonely anymore. So anyway, I don't know if that speaks to you, but self-expression for me was a huge coaching that made a difference in my life.
So, I think a lot of what they're saying is a bunch of crap. But there's truth in it. But what I've seen over the years is that people will coach you. They give you a lot of good advice. It sounds like a high-level coach that was telling you that. And you hear that stuff all the time. But they tell you, what I've been seeing, because I've done a lot of personal growth and development programs, they tell you all this stuff, but they tell you like like, I'm not saying the journey's over or anything, but telling you to be wherever you are here, be all the way over here, and not telling you what it's going to take, if it's going to take that 10, 15 years. You're feeling pain and suffering now. So what I would say is accept that you're lonely. Accept that you want to be with someone and be with it. And the most powerful place. The most powerful place I've gotten to is when I gave up on dating. Like I let it go. And it was through growth and a lot of the things that you're saying, but be okay that you're lonely. And it's like, okay, I'm lonely. I haven't met my match. Because I think the reason why that you're lonely, it's okay and it's natural, and we fight it because it's painful, but it's okay. Like we take antidepressants, so we go do these coaching programs, we do all these things to stop suffering or being in pain, but maybe it's okay that you're in pain. And it's okay that you're lonely, and it's okay you want someone that fulfills you and fits you, and like you two, I think that's where you found it. But from my experience is, not
and
everyone,
we still have to be intentional, because loneliness can happen in a relationship just as much.
I get that. But you want someone that meshes with you and connects with you, and I think that's part of what you're looking for, and it's okay. And you could meet someone and not be lonely for a second and realize you don't mesh, or there's a void you're trying to fill, but that's something you're going to have to work on discovering. It doesn't happen like that.
I'm a little confused because it sounds like everything you just said is everything we just said, but it's still a load of crap. So
hold on.
I'm just confused.
Okay, so what I heard you saying, Adam, is accept my loneliness. Stop resisting and fighting it.
Right.
And trying to fix it. Like, stop trying to fix it, which actually really speaks to me because it represents one thing I value is relationship, right? That's why I'm lonely. I want a relationship where I can be a partner, where I can be empowering someone and they can be there for me. And and that's not there. So that's good. Being lonely matches my values for me right now. And that's what I heard you say.
Which is an acknowledgement for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's really great.
So what do you get that?
Oh no, I got it from the beginning, and I got that you brought out the acceptance part of it, and what I really like about that from a coaching perspective is because it's real. Like it exists in reality right now, and when you accept where you are, it actually gives you a place to be ambitious. Like because anytime you're like thinking or you're lamenting or yearning about something, you're not really doing anything, right? You have no actions to take, and it's from a coaching perspective, if you can't find a way to take action, you're not really doing anything. So I think that accepting the fact that you're lonely and accepting the fact that you do want intimacy in your life, and it doesn't have to be right now, is a great place to say, okay, well, then what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to take actions that are consistent now with loneliness. You're going to be lonely.
I don't see that. It's not like, for example, for me, okay, if I'm just picturing, let's say I just totally accept, like, you know what, I'm lonely. I just accept that. Then it's no longer like even a thing. It's like, then I go on to do the other things I want to do. My actions aren't consistent with it.
It's like you're
Exactly,
hungry.
I'm hungry.
Now you might want to go eat. Right now you can't eat because you're on a diet or something.
But I thought we weren't going to put Band-Aids on. You still are not taking actions. You're still not proactively going after what you want. Like you said, from point A to point B, and you don't have to go date, you don't have to go do things. But when I know that I'm lonely, even in a marriage, I know that there's actions I can take to get rid of my loneliness. And it has to do with communication. It has to do with a lot of different things, but...
So maybe speak to that. What actions again?
So for me, one thing is, it's like, encouraging the legal process to unfold. It's going to take its own time, but there are certain things I can do, you know, to make that happen as quickly as possible. That's one thing. The other thing is spending time with friends that I can really be myself with.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Those are two that come to mind.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, from my perspective, that's exactly what you would look for. I mean, you own the fact that you're lonely, and you're going to go do things that are going to speed up the process so that you are more accessible for dating or a relationship. And you've opened up that you don't have to be lonely when you're social, and you can go find friends. So that's perfect. That right there is two actions, is actually drawing you closer to what you want. And in the meantime, you can still be in pain, but it's pain. It's like, it's still a yearning.
Once you accept that you're not in so much pain, but what I'm hearing is that you're looking for ways to fix it. And I think the main thing I'm saying, you don't have to fix it. Right?
Yep.
I mean, I use hunger as an analogy, but that's probably an analogy that's not exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and I love that because it means if we're trying to fix it, it means that we won't be whole until, right, we have something out here, like a person or whatever. And a lot of people aren't, you know, we're committed to a relationship. But there are people who are single, do experience loneliness, and are not committed to being in a relationship right now. And so I think that's a whole other group. Like, you know, if we can find wholeness or passion or fill the loneliness void with or without being in a relationship, like that's where I feel like the gold is. Like, so what is that? I like how you said communication.
And maybe you guys should talk about being in a relationship. What's it like, and what are the things that you do to make it better or good? Like you talked about being lonely within a relationship. Because we are not talking about that. Because we're not in a relationship. So, you guys tell us, what is it like?
So if you want a handsome man, I'm just kidding. I'm kind of not, but okay. Do you have thoughts on that?
I think that the remembering being single and what it was like to be lonely is much less preferable to be in a relationship and be at odds with each other and feel lonely. I would much rather be in a relationship and in a fight than be single and alone. But the loneliness that I experience inside of relationships comes from not being in communication, or being in an argument where like I can't be like what I'm saying is not being interpreted as what it means to me. That's loneliness. Yeah, I'm not being like, I'm not being heard. I'm saying
people say, I don't feel like you're hearing me.
Yeah, like I'm saying A and you're hearing B, and it's coming back. So for me, that's when it comes to loneliness. That's where I feel like that's the only time I actually feel like I'm alone in a relationship, is because every other time, it's like we're working together like seamlessly until communication isn't until there's like a breakdown in communication. I think that's the only time I actually feel lonely in a relationship.
And that is
Myself
where we
personally.
go. We go to communication, and it's funny because we're like, is communication out? That's what we ask each other. Like, is there actually communication happening or something else, right? Like triggers and, you know, like you're hearing one thing, I'm saying something else. And what we notice is that when communication isn't actually happening, like clear communication, we both feel the same way. So I'm over here like, you're not hearing me. He's over there, you're not hearing me. Like we're actually experiencing the same thing. And what's interesting is in any relationship, because I have a relationship with my mom, right? With the lady at the grocery store, with my sister, with my friend. Really, it's all the same. And communication has been a huge tool to say, okay, let me stop and I want to hear what you're saying. And we just focus on that. And I'm like, okay, are you saying this? Did I get it right? And we do that until the communication is actually heard and understood. And we may trade sides. Okay, great, I understand that. And here's what I'm saying. Did you understand me? And that's a great place. Like, you know, loneliness inside this relationship is actually the same as loneliness inside of my relationship with my mom if her and I aren't able to communicate about something.
I think for like an intimate relationship, we have it really well because like when we were dating, like our lifestyles and like what we wanted for our life were so similar. So we don't have a lot of those things like get in the way of our relationship. It's mostly just, it's really simple things like that just end up in communication, but it's like, you know, we have the same religion, we have the same set of beliefs, you know, we don't fight about childcare. So like all of that stuff, like that you hear about relationships where the people are at odds with, we don't have that. It's actually really small things or like personality things. Like, you know, in relationships, at some point in time we're going to talk about it, but like a lot of times in relationships you have personality traits that don't mesh, especially when you're in an intimate relationship and you're getting to know each other really well, and then you start finding out that your wife is your mom kind of things and that you're still triggered by and you still get upset by the things that your mom did when your wife doesn't. So you're always going to have those types of things that are going to throw things off, but I think we were lucky enough to, in our relationship, to have enough of our lifestyle be compatible that it's not that often that I actually do feel lonely. It's actually very rare.
Well, and it's not luck. What we actually did when we came together, you could call it a number of things, but intentional dating or courtship, it was marriage minded. So we both kind of got sick of the whole dating scene. We were, you know, one of us was afraid to date and one of us was just like,
Which one?
I'm not, okay. Confessions, we're not doing confessions here.
Well, you know it's
we both kind of were afraid in a sense to date, but Heber was like,
I was apathetic about it.
yeah, he was apathetic, and I'm like, I just don't want to. Like, all the work and all the wasted time and energy.
I get that. Yeah.
You know, like, that's where I was. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I just don't even want to date. Now what? I'm never going to get to my spouse because I have to go date first.
Because you have to go through a maze. First,
Yeah,
right? And then
so
you
That's
hit
what it
dead
feels
ends.
like.
Yeah,
Crap.
totally. Or worse,
Why
like
is this maze so
sinkholes.
hard? Yeah. Well, there's traps in the maze too.
There is
Spikes. Oh, what? That hurts.
Falling spiders.
I'm like, why did you ask me on a date and then not show up?
I know.
This goofy crap like that.
Oh,
I
we
mean,
should be able to
there's-
leave online
I'm
feedback
speaking
for
of
each
Facebook.
other.
There's no one specific, but
You're a
I've had
lousy
that
dater.
experience.
Yeah.
Girl asks me out, want to go for drinks, whatever, and they're like, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why can't you just tell me something like
Yep.
F off, I don't feel good, you know, anything, but they just disappear.
I know.
That's the most amazing, ridiculous thing I've ever seen about dating.
Does that happen to you a lot?
I was gonna say,
It happens enough when you're on the court. You know,
Yeah.
That's a landmark term, but when you're out there,
You're playing
and
the game.
dating, you're playing the game.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered is that, like I've talked about, we have like a landmark culture background. And what I've discovered is that when you are as social as I am, or you're out there meeting people so much, you really deal with a lot of different personalities. So you start having a wider scope.
Mm-hmm.
nice.
And yes, it does happen. It doesn't always happen, but I think it's the world, the way the world has become. That's why things like that happen, because it's a lot easier to just not be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it's very simple, but they don't be
it
responsible.
keeps happening, or you have a set of patterned results,
Sometimes, yeah.
but you're aware of it,
Mhm.
and it's out there. It's like the world is like this.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. But I
Keep
totally
going,
disagree.
Hubert.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
That's
Keep
why he's
going
like,
here.
oh,
Well,
well, he remembers our
let him
conversation
get there and then you
earlier.
can disagree. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Hubert.
Well,
Well, that's why I painted it the way I did at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, that's great.
okay, but it's happening to you.
That's
all I'm saying.
Okay.
It happens to other people,
And it
though. So
happens.
you could say there's agreement, there's happening with other people, but
Mhm.
but there's a point that stuff just doesn't apply or work.
I thought you were going to say something that was going to make a difference for what's showing up for him. Did you have anything else?
He's giving me
to say?
So-
he's giving
Yeah,
me
you-
crap.
So
Yeah, I know.
the good thing about coaching is
Where'd you
that
go?
I don't actually have to say anything at all.
Oh,
I
just
just
let it land? Or
Well,
let
I
me
just-
let me get it?
But the audience doesn't know
Right, that's-
what you're speaking to, and it really does seem. I mean, he didn't, Adam. You didn't
Sorry.
blow this lady off. She blowed you off.
Oh yeah, I didn't
That
even
is
ask her out.
somebody else. That
I
is
didn't
out of
ask her
Adam's
out. Like, hey, do you
control.
want to go do this? Yeah, sure.
So how do we
Hello?
get power or like control over our dating life when it seems like we have no control over other people's?
But I'm really saying, like you're saying seems, I'm saying this is how it is.
It is
Right.
how
People
it
flake.
is.
People flake, they don't want to be responsible. It happens a little bit with business, but more so with dating. And I would say more so with women, which is like a scary thing to like say it's women, but it seems to me that I've talked to women before, and women will say to me, because I have a lot of good friends that are girls, and they'll say to me, oh, it's because they even if they're in that language, or
Mhm.
they're not land working, but if they're in that language, they'll say, oh, they don't want to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to go to the next thing and have fun and let that go because it's socially acceptable. It's okay.
Mm.
Like,
Okay.
oh, I didn't want to go out with them. Let's just blow them off.
So
And
would
it
you?
happens to girls too, but it seems it happens less to girls.
Okay.
Well, since you're not a girl, why would you say that? Did you do a survey? Why
Mm-hmm.
do you say it happens less to women?
Because that's what I was saying. When you're out there enough and you talk to people,
Okay. So you kind of
they
been
share.
giving anecdotal.
They share. Yeah,
like,
I'm saying, hey, this is
collection
happening
of
to me, and they
evidence.
say,
Okay.
yeah, it happens to me, but not that often, or whatever. right?
Interesting. Okay.
But
Just
they're
wondering.
usually not out there asking or out there doing it because there's still a bit of a traditional thing. The man asks the woman. But what I'm
That's
talking about
fair.
is when a woman asks the man and then they still flake. That's what's amazing to me.
So do you think that you would have more success in your relationship if you were able to like quantify who those women are that would do that against the women who wouldn't do that?
Yeah, but I might get in trouble for it. But
Why would
Usually-
you? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what do you
usually
mean by
the
that?
women that will do that are the ones that are really pretty. And so I don't know what it is, but I have a theory that power corrupts. Whatever the power is, it corrupts. Whether it's your good intelligence in your coaching or good looks or whatever. It doesn't always. Like you can evolve past that, but power corrupts at any level. So
Well,
when they
is
have
it-
so much attention coming at them,
If power
They're able to
corrupts,
go,
what's
"Oh."
not corruptible then?
Hold on. Actually,
that I don't know. That's a whole nother
So-
conversation.
if is the question
That might be
is,
somewhere to look.
is your theory empowering you to have satisfying dating relationship? And if not, let's look at it a different way. Like you have a theory, right? And that explains why this is happening. But who cares? Because you want a different result, right?
One thing that comes to mind. So that's
The empowering thing for me is like to just let it go.
Okay.
That's why I shared that with you.
Got it. Okay.
Just let it go, and then honestly, people have shown up. Like, hey, what's
Nice.
up?
Yeah.
We're just chatting, whatever, because I've let it go, so I'm not really excited to go out on a date because I have that story.
So
Well, okay, you're talking to me, but there's a maze to go through. I don't even know. If
so what I'm getting from that is that
Maybe give me a map first, then I'll come.
is that you don't actually know how to intentionally date. Because when you intentionally date, you're actually not reliable to produce the results you want. And when you're not intentionally dating and you're focusing on things that have nothing to do with relationships, then whatever shows up circumstantially tends to be better results.
I actually think, because you're saying it like that, what you shared, that you guys were lucky. I think it's just luck.
Okay.
I think, yeah, you intentionally dated and you have the same religion, right?
Mm.
Oh, can I ask
A lot
you
of-
what
a lot of-
religion that is?
Judaism.
Okay. So you have the same religion and you guys intentionally dated because when you
I do
finally met.
I do want to point out that we came to that before because we actually don't have backgrounds in Judaism. So
Oh.
that's actually wasn't a determining factor.
Oh, that's
And we
cool.
weren't lucky.
So my parents actually were the first ones who introduced me to. I was homeschooled for a time, and a lot of these families, who have whatever you want to call it, more wholesome values or whatever. We're not in the public school dating scene, casual dating, that type of thing. They actually first introduced me to intentional dating, and what's really cool about it is it's marriage minded. So that allows me to actually put together my list of my commitments, my values, my non-negotiables, my needs, my wants, and I really included everything on that list. How do I want to raise the kids? Where do I want to live? Do I want to have access to like farming or gardening or like a natural environment? I mean, just whatever it was. And when we came together, I mean, we were great. We were friends, and that's awesome. We liked each other as friends. But when we actually came together, it was 2 weeks. We came together saying, is your list of what you want for your life and your commitments and your values, and do you want a family? All of this, is that compatible with mine? Like, do I get to win in that scenario, and does he get to win in that scenario?
And I use this all the time, but like in those first 2 weeks when we were dating intentionally, I gave her, like, I'm 33 years old right now. I was about 31 when we started dating. And I gave her all of my garbage, all my baggage, as they say. A lot of people don't want to come into a relationship with somebody and all their baggage and find out down the road, because I was in a place of apathy.
Could you scoot over just a little bit?
This way?
Yeah. Because my bum is right on the and I can't take it anymore. Thank you.
So, I don't feel like we were lucky. I feel like it was a lot of work.
Very intentional.
And in the very beginning, it was like, if I actually want this to work, I'm going to have to put something at stake. So, like, I put everything out. We put all the cards out on the table. We looked at everything. So,
and I have intentionally dated before, and what's cool about that, I'm not selling intentional dating, but it does speak to something, right? Because if I'm just going to a bar and picking up a guy or whatever, I mean, the chances are that may be great. I know people that have amazing marriages that way, but chances are that there's not a commitment that's actually drawing us together, or a relatedness that's like, hey, let's look at this, like building a life together. It's kind of like, hey, I like you, let's get together, let's go play and have a bunch of fun, and then maybe we'll have this serious conversation. So when I actually, talked to, the other gentleman that I intentionally dated, I'm like, it's nothing personal, but here's what I want for my life, and I don't see us being compatible in this, and this area. And that's it.
So the comment about being lucky, everybody who is in a relationship that works feels like they're lucky. Like, I do. I mean, we were lucky, and I do feel lucky. I mean, if you consider...
When I say lucky, I'm not discounting everything you said.
Right. But
I took everything you said, and I think, okay, luck.
Okay.
Because there's an occasional relationship like yours, and it seems lucky.
Well, let's
say like you
perfect.
said.
Well, let's
because it's definitely not ordinary, for sure.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if I look at it statistically, and I'm going to go to a slot machine, and I'm going to put something at stake by putting it in the slot machine, and there's a certain amount of percentage, right, that I'm going to hit, and I'm going to get something, right? It's how many people are there on the planet? It's
7 billion.
There's like 7 billion people on the planet. A certain percentage I mean, we could narrow this down statistically to what your actual results are.
But life isn't a statistic. You don't go to a bar or a personal growth and development course or a networking group or online dating.
But you actually do.
But you don't like have that same thing. The statistics, what I'm trying to say is like the statistics might be this, but that statistic that you're looking for doesn't always fit into that box.
Absolutely.
You have a lot of variables going on. It's not a slot machine.
It's not a slot machine, and there are a lot of variables, but at the end of the day, you're still playing the odds. That's why they call it a game, the dating game. It's still like how you're playing the game and what you're coming up with. So as I pointed out earlier, the way that you play the game is not reliable to produce the results that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you suck at the dating game.
Mhm.
When you don't play the dating game, your odds are better in your favor because of the way that you're playing. That's like sitting at a poker table and you're like, I'm going to play this way at the poker table, and every time you play, you're just losing more and more and more and more money, rather than just saying, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to take whatever card I get, and then you're like, bam, what the hell happened? I'm making so much money now. So, I mean, that's the communication I'm getting from you, is that I don't know how to play the dating game effectively. So, I mean, that's actually just what I hear, and I mean, if you consider that you're not going to date anymore, you're going to continue to do personal development, you're going to go about your life and do what you're going to do, and then all of a sudden, magically, somebody shows up in your space and you're all big hearts in your eyes and your jaw's dropped, you're like, lucky, right? But that's life. A lot of people go through life, and you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to find somebody to fill that void, and it doesn't matter. When it comes to statistics, it's not going to matter how you do it. It's just that you know what you're looking for. Like, I would say, yeah, give up. Give up on dating. Give up on everything. But when you give up and before you give up, be certain about what you actually want. Because when it shows up and you're sitting in your apathy and you're not wanting to date and you're lamenting and you're not present to what you want.
But I'm not doing all that you're saying.
I'm not saying you are, but it's not just about
and
you.
And this is for the audience.
Yeah. Just be certain about what you want, because I mean, you can even write it down. You get as specific as you want down to the eye color.
I got that, and that's like the all the coaching you ever get all the time, the same stuff. Write it down, be intentional about it, whatnot. But let's change the subject.
Okay.
Actually, I have a question that's still on this subject, which is, holy moly, I mean, the way you described it is there's actually a way that works to date to get the relationship you want. So let's talk about that. What are you talking about? You said get clear on what you want, and then what?
Yeah, get clear on what you want. Like, what is it, like, if you have the ability to make a choice in your life, like, you're going to take route A or route B, like, that's going to be really easy. But a lot of people don't think that they can actually, like, choose to have exactly what they want. So, I mean, you can be very specific in what you want.
Yeah,
and determine it.
Yeah. So let's say, like McCall described, she got really, really clear on what she wanted.
Yeah. So did I.
Right. Okay, great. And then what?
Like, how did our dating go?
You're describing like you know how to date that works, and I'm saying tell us.
And then what happened next? You made a list.
Yeah. Okay, so
I have a list too, by the way, but you make a list and then what?
Yeah.
All right, let's just go straight to the metaphor. I love trout, and I love a specific type of trout. So I'm going to go to the lake where the trout is.
So where did you go?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
He said, where the trout? He went fishing.
Okay, you figure out exactly what you want, and then you find where that group of people is, and you go there.
That's interesting. I can kind of see it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want somebody,
right kind of bait, use the right fly.
If you want a really healthy relationship with somebody who's committed to marriage, I would go find a group of people
that are committed to marriage.
Where
is that?
And family.
Where is that?
Where is that?
Where?
Inside of your group.
No,
I mean.
So for us, there's like a spiritual conversation.
Yeah.
There's like health and well-being. There's we actually met in Landmark, which is a personal development organization, which I would love. That's a great. Most likely, if I'm meeting somebody there that has the same language and is committed to personal development, which that is on my list, that would be a good spot to start.
Yeah.
And a little bit of luck, and you're set.
If you want a really, really deep relationship, intimate relationship, and you're going to the bar every weekend and, getting hammered and taking home whatever you get, that's actually what you're really committed to. Because that's what keeps showing up. That's how your life is going. But if you actually want a real relationship, you have a story of morality. You have like something that you're committed to that works, and you can call it a fantasy, but it's an ideal. And somebody in the world shares that ideal with you. Somebody does. And your effectiveness has to do with the atmosphere that you're putting yourself in, or the environment that you're putting yourself
So
in.
you go to the stream, and it has to be the right time of year, right?
No.
And then you're going to be sifting through, like, not
And-
this one, not this one.
And hold up.
No,
Makes sense,
it's a good
you're
point.
statistically more likely to get the right trout if you do that.
Yeah.
Well, most people
What fly am I going to
consider
use?
most people consider that dating is like a solo game, right? Like it's me in this huge pond, and it's up to me to go find whatever fish.
Okay,
But
yeah.
what about your good friends? What about your good family
Put
members?
the word out.
What about the people? Seriously, yes. Some of the best relationships that I
Let's
know
get to
were
that.
hooked up by mutual friends that said, look, you have a connection to anybody in the world. You're 6 degrees of separation. If I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? You have access to all 7 billion people on the planet.
I think that's a
And
bunch of crap.
Well,
James.
but it's been proven statistically. Like that's
It's
what's
proven statistically,
Hold on.
but
So you're
that
saying
6
also,
person, that 6 person might not want to talk to you. I want to talk to President Obama. He might not want to talk
That's
to me.
okay. So,
Okay.
but bring teamwork and get people. Like, do people know what
so
you're
then what I'm
looking
hearing is
for?
also think outside the box with regard to finding the right pond with the right trout at the
So,
right time of year.
Here's the other thing too. If I don't know how to fish, it's a really good idea to go to talk to somebody who knows how to fish. I mean, it's.
Are you like saying I don't know how to fish? Because I'm starting to feel
I
like
thought
you're
you said
directing
that.
this to
I'm
me.
pretty certain, based off
You know
your
when I
results,
say-
you don't
when I
know how
say a
to
bunch
fish.
When I say a bunch of crap, when I say a bunch of crap, I
Yeah.
am not meaning it personal.
Oh, we know.
But it sounds personal when you say it.
Oh!
But when I say it's a bunch of crap, I'm not saying you're a bunch of crap.
You can take it,
Right.
but I
I'm saying
can't
that
take it.
philosophy is a bunch of crap.
Okay.
And
I know.
I think you're triggered when I say lucky. You seem triggered.
Well, I'm looking at luck as a statistical average. Like, and is it a bad thing? I am like looking at it. Like, is it luck? And am I okay with it? I'm absolutely okay with the fact that there's probably a certain amount of randomness to our experiences.
That's a good way to say it too. Right?
Yeah, and I'm totally, I mean, like, we met it was random. Like, I knew her way before she was a dating interest. So, yeah, I'm totally okay with it. There is going to be a certain amount of randomness.
Maybe that's a better way to say it.
I like that. And what I don't want to be missing is when I hear people are like, "Oh, you're lucky," no acknowledgement, right, for
Yeah,
how we
I
actually
said that.
played
I
the
said
game.
that.
And
It wasn't.
I don't
doesn't
want
put
people to
everything aside.
think, I don't want other people to think that it's up to luck.
Exactly.
When I'm like, no, like, you actually can play this game and have it be effective. Most of the people in my life that I grew up with inside of the homeschooling network, a spiritual community, they lived this way. And it worked. They have extraordinary relationships, and they met inside of their church, or they met inside of whatever, little niche thing, whatever they were into, and they had their family's support, and they had,
Do you?
so that's normal for where I'm
So a couple questions before
Do we have any audience
we jump
participation?
on.
Okay.
One
Just
of us
wondering.
would tell you, yeah.
Okay.
We'd say something.
Great.
So, because I've been keeping an eye on it too, because I have to watch.
And I
the
do have
studio.
several posts and questions and things people are
Okay,
doing.
well let's
So-
I have a
switch.
couple
Let's switch to that. I was just gonna say, so you're getting divorced and you're very open about it. Are you making any spiritual changes,
So for
like
me,
religion wise?
okay, I have like a really personal relationship to my God, and that's been critical in the quality of life that I have has really arisen out of that. So I don't want any changes except more closeness. Like that's almost it's an extremely intimate relationship because I try to be really straight with him about where I'm at, and like I want to speak to it like clearly without excluding anyone who wouldn't. So I'm a Latter-day Saint, and I pray to God regularly, and sometimes I pray just in my own mind,
I
right?
pray to God too.
So
Why?
let's get back to the
Why?
original. Yes, sometimes my prayers sound like that. Oh my gosh. So all I wanted my whole life was to you know, raise children and have a great marriage. In fact, I didn't even think about great. I just wanted my marriage to last forever because I thought that was great, right? And so it's been a massive disappointment and kind of for me not to see that arising. Now I actually want a great marriage, and to not have been effective in that has been like, why? So I really, I do pray like that at times, and I'm less grieving now, but a lot as this was like kind of developing, and I was like, wow, this marriage is not ever going to be, you know, mutually respectful and healthy, and it's not going to be what I want to have in the world. It's not ever going to be that. So there's a lot of mourning, and that space, I've been in that space with God, for sure. And sometimes angry, and sometimes what the heck, where are you? And you know, the whole thing. But what was the original question? Because I really feel like I'm like, boing, going off topic.
Do you change your spirituality at all? Are you
Heck
still
no, this really works. Yeah, for me. Yeah, no.
So the question would be, when you don't have that spiritual religion, which I don't, I'm spiritual, not religious, you don't have that group to go to. There's different factions, but sometimes you just don't fit into those groups. So what do you do if you're not spiritual or religious? And you guys mentioned the bars, but there's other places besides bars, right, to go to.
The library.
But
Well, even online.
What you reading?
Well, say more
And then the
about
personal development section.
say more about what it is.
I have
it's
a
not
really
like there's a
specific
group.
answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Whatever it is that you do, and you're doing it with other people, and you're probably going to do it your whole life, that's probably the best pool. It doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be anything. It's like, this is what I want to do with my life. If you're going to be a rock climber, you're going to be a spelunker. It's whatever it is that brings you passion. If you can share that with somebody, like this conversation started with loneliness, right? I feel less lonely when I do things with other people that we have in common, because we're sharing something.
Yeah.
And the closer that we can get together in that, the less lonely I'm going to be. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to even look anyway. It's what is it that you're committed to? Like, what is it that you want to do? And who do you want to do it with?
Great. You had some points? And then let's plus it. People have questions, let's plus that. And we're getting close to our time. So.
Yep.
Okay.
So, so what are the biggest problems with being single, dating, or relationships? One person shared, well, in relationships, which could be with anybody, communication in the midst of an argument or when people are upset. So do we want to focus on communication? That actually might be a great topic for next week. Communication in business, health.
Oh yeah, we forgot the last part of our thing is how this all relates to money and business.
Maybe we should do that.
How single, married, and limbo, and how it pertains to business and money.
I don't know where to start with that. How do you want to?
I don't. Well, I can tell you by experience. When I've been in a relationship and engaged, none of this mattered anymore because I was focused. I was connected. I went home. I had all that, and it was. I'll just offer my experience. So it was steady. I didn't have to worry about it. Then it didn't work out. We broke up, and this is years ago, right? And then I started a year later or so. I was single, and I started grossing. I started making more than I ever have before. I started doing $50,000 a month regularly. So I don't know if I came to a place or it had nothing to do with it either. But I did notice I was more stable. But then I also had my huge growth period. So maybe what I've seen is that if you have someone or no one, because in that position, someone that's like-minded with you would make a huge difference, right? Like her money blueprint. If you've done any other coaching programs, money blueprint, her money past, whatever, how she viewed money, I think in a way kind of held me back. And I kept doing the work after she left, and then I just boomed. So my experience is that to find someone that's like-minded with that.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think?
Well, I totally agree with that. I mean, even
You
when I
guys
was
seem,
single.
You guys seem like on the same page when you guys talk. You guys seem like
Oh,
you're right on the same page.
I don't even think I need to be here then.
But even when I was single, I mean, finding somebody to be in communication with, an accountability partner, somebody that I could just, you know, you get each other all revved up and excited and refreshed, and there's companionship there. It's like that can look any number of ways. For a long time, it was my sister-in-law, you know, and then, you know, life happened and turned into somebody else, you know. So that's awesome. Like-mindedness is key. And we've discovered, you know.
You kind of talked about it before, but pertaining to money specifically.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have two different perspectives. Like coming into, I was a bachelor. I don't think I was making tons of money and very irresponsible, like budgeting wise. And she's way more grounded. And I think that there's been like, for me, a huge learning curve, especially with like taking on a family and being a family man, like a major change for me.
So added stability.
Total added stability and focus, like you said, and a lot less selfishness. So because that's how I spent my money. It was just, you know, I had plenty of money. It was what I wanted when I wanted it, and that's not the case when you have a family. So I mean, there was definitely a big change there.
I'm thinking of, in my marriage, we were both extremely risk averse, and that worked really, really well. And then I started to change, and I became like, just kind of, now, I mean, look, I'm on a show. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like way more willing to kind of step into the dark and do things that are not safe and kind of crazy. And that did not go well. So I can really see the like-minded conversation making a massive difference. I can see, you could look at it both ways. Like, he might have felt like I was holding him back, and I could definitely feel that way about him because we had different, like, it was like a clashing value, you know, at that point.
What do you do when it, how long have you two been together?
Almost 2 years.
And how long were you married?
In March, it'll be 17 years.
So that's what I was going to ask. Was it like, so 2 years, 17 years. Were you more similar before and it changed?
Way more similar. I got married really young. I don't recommend that. Not recommending that. So anyways, but you know, just, I've developed a lot of different thinking as an adult, you know, especially after turning 30, a lot of different, just a lot of independence, and that did not go well with the culture that we married agreeing to. It was kind of like, I was like, that agreement is I'm no longer going to go along with not our marital vows, but like the unspoken agreements about we think the same and there's one right way to do things and on and on and on. So that didn't work anymore, and I was like, I'm so sorry, but I've just changed the agreement and I'm not going back to that ever, you know. And so it's kind of on me. I've acknowledged that with him, like, you know, I've changed and sorry. That like, but that's kind of, I'm setting a new boundary. That's just how it's gonna go. Is I get to be me. So did that answer your question? I also feel like I'm kind of off topic again.
No, you're on topic. I just don't know what to say.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that. It's unfortunate, but I get it. That's what I mean, is that people do change over time. What else do you got there?
Let's see. So, did we want to talk about communication inside of upset, inside of an argument?
Sure. Go ahead. Since you guys have that.
You want to address that?
Just don't do it.
What, argue or?
Yeah, just don't argue.
No, that's actually really good. One of our coaches is basically like, don't try to communicate when the other person is triggered. Like, that makes no sense. Like, come together when you can actually talk and like talk things out and get, you know, have effective communication. So first of all, stopping it when there's not an effective communication, and then giving yourself, you know, how much time do you need to get yourself sorted out? Do you call your coach, call your mom, just, you know, get yourself sorted out, come back together and actually talk when there's space for that. That's made a big difference, because I would always be like, well, why can't we just talk this out? Well, why can't we just work it out? Well, I know there's peace on the other side, so let's just keep talking. And, you know, badger.
And that's how you are with them?
Yes, so much better.
Leave me alone.
So,
I want space.
And I actually request that now. Like, nope, I actually get that, you know, I don't have to be part of a conversation that's not working. I actually get to honor myself in that way and honor him. So we only communicate when there's space for that. And
can I just say, what I hear when you say space for that is, for me, it means I can hear anything you have to say right now without getting upset. That's when you say when there's space for that. I'm thinking, for me on the court or in real life, that means when I can like just hear anything you have to say.
Yep, and when you know how there's physical sensations and there's thoughts and there's emotions you have when you're kind of like triggered or on edge, or like what are they gonna say, you know?
Yeah.
Really having us be responsible and identify our own triggers and signs of the trigger is coming, whether I'm tired, frustrated, this just went on too long, I'm hungry, like whatever that is. Oh, I'm triggered, I usually get flushed. I never noticed that, but I feel hot in my cheeks.
Did you take a picture?
Yeah.
Look, see, you're flushed.
You are doing it. You know, actually being responsible with that and saying, whoa, I've got some red flags. Like, let me go
You
sort
want to
myself
interrupt
out.
it. Like, when you can develop the self-control, like, you don't want to be in a fight. Like, we don't want to fight. Yet, if you can develop the self-control to interrupt whatever's about to happen, the typhoon that's about to, or the volcano that's about to erupt, and then if you can interrupt it, create distance and clarity. And for me, I need to go talk to somebody else. Like that's what helps me. If I continue to try to work it out with her, I just start boiling more and more and more and more and more. That's something I recognize in myself, and trying to not be myself doesn't work. And then, like she was saying, there's probably two different things that you can look for people who are dealing with that in their relationship, because I think it's really important, because it can cause a lot of damage. Is that typically that's something that's past based. Like for me, I have a lot of triggers because of the way that I was raised. In the household, my relationship with my mom and my dad, and then there's also other triggers like she was talking about, which has to do with your health and well-being. Like having a conversation with me, you might just want to give me a Snickers first. You know what I mean? If I'm having low blood sugar or something, it's a reality. And when we're in a relationship, we just expect that, this person, this is my lover and my friend and my partner, and I can say whatever I want to them at any point in time, and everything's going to be fine. It's just not a reality. You have to be conscious of it, and you got to be willing to be compassionate and reasonable all the time, because it doesn't take much when you're in an intimate relationship for it to engulf. So
Totally.
Great. That's all the time we really have.
That's really great.
Anything that you need to say important?
No.
Someone needs to share?
No, I think we're good. Maybe next week we can delve more into communication in business and relationships and health. That would be really cool.
What do we want to talk about next week? Communications?
Yep.
Communication, business.
How to actually
and
make communication
relationships.
work.
That would
takes
be
something.
interesting too. Cool.
sounds exciting.
Thank you guys for listening and watching the Mastermind in Your Pocket, where we have experts share with you their point of views, opinions, and advice. And who's on the show?
And we answer your questions.
Oh, we have questions?
No, we answer your questions.
Oh, we answer your questions too. We answer your questions, so please call in sometime in the future if you'd like to know. It's 713-955-0531, or you can comment here on Facebook and we'll answer your questions. And just to close up, our hosts are Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Maservi. You can reach me at elizabeththeinterpreter@gmail.com.
I was going to ask you a question. Could you sign the show?
Yes.
Maybe we should do that next show.
We need
I
an
forgot.
interpreter to voice for me. I'm not going to voice and sign at the same time. It's like speaking English and Spanish at the same time.
I obviously don't know enough about signing to know.
Sign for doesn't work. Like paradox. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Heber?
Heber LeBaron. You can reach me on, I think the best way for this is through Facebook. Just private message me.
Great. And what do you do? Just in case.
I
'Cause
coach-
sometimes people don't see the whole thing.
I coach in relationships, intimacy, and in careers.
And he has a successful relationship.
I'm a credible source.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
McCall, the best way to reach me is by email, info@integritywellness.org. And I'm a functional nutritionist. I can solve your complex, mysterious symptoms for good. And also help you just heal from anything emotional or traumatic from your past.
Great. I'm Adam Tajdine, host of the Alta Perform show and Passion Living with Adam. And we do marketing, consulting, implementation for you. So you can contact me here on Messenger or anything. Google my name, Adam Tajdine, if you can spell it, and you'll find me. See you later. Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, watch for our next show, next Tuesday,
Next Tuesday.
Next
10 o'clock. See you later.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
That was kind of an intense one.
Thank you for listening and
I thought it was super great because